Welcome to Hockey Night in New York, where Islanders hockey always reigns supreme. Whether you were raised at the barn in Uniondale or born in the stable at Belmont, Hockey Night in New York is your home for all things Isles. Now, let's drop the puck and get this party started.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Hockey Night in New York. Welcome to the program, everyone. It is Sunday, March 8th, 2026, coming at you live from Florida Media in Rockville Center. An absolutely stupendous show coming up for you tonight. Alan Fuehring, Islanders play-by-play man, will be joining us. Can't wait to speak to him. My name is Sean Cuthbert. With me the vast majority of the time is Mr. Arthur Staple. Arthur, how are you?
Great. Normal weather out. I didn't have to surf a mountain of ice to get into the building here. What could be better than that?
60-degree weather.
I know. I love it.
Great stuff. All right, folks. Thank you so much for joining Hockey Night in New York. Before we dive in, I want to thank our wonderful sponsor, Razor, Kniff, and Lonstein. Check them out at razorandkniff.com. That is RAISERANDKENNIFF.com for a free consultation. And if you want to get some questions in later on in the program, type in questions brewing followed by your question, and we will get to them then. So, with the pleasantries out of the way, Arthur, let's switch gears tonight. Instead of doing the typical recaps that we do, the trade deadline came and went. The New York Islanders got involved. Let's focus on that. Everybody knows the scores of the games. Maybe we'll touch on them later if we get to it, but let's talk about what the Islanders did. Brayden Schenn is a New York Islander. J.G. Pageau has been extended for 3 years. A first and a third goes the way to the St. Louis Blues, as well as a goaltending prospect whose name escapes me at the moment, and Jonathan Drouin and his $4 million contract. What do you make of that deal, Arthur?
You know, I don't mind it. You know, I think we were maybe anticipating a different St. Louis Blue waiving his no trade clause to come to the Islanders.
Yeah.
We've been talking about Jordan Kyrou. I think the Islanders were talking with the Blues about Jordan Kyrou. Maybe they were talking too about Robert Thomas, which would have been quite a dramatic change.
Indeed.
Neither of those guys went anywhere, so certainly something that the Islanders could revisit if they wanted. Still wanted one of those two guys. But Brayden Schenn, you know, I think he certainly fits in with the way this Islanders team is built. And I don't, you know, that's a compliment in one way because they are a team that is pretty relentless, doesn't give up in games. We've certainly seen it since the break, going down 2-0 a couple of times, coming back and rallying. They've got that kind of ability to rally and dig in deep and have some guys like Pageau, like Andersley, who you can rely on to not quit, not give up, be relentless, be physical. Brayden Schenn fits that mold. He's a guy who was a captain of the Blues for several years. He's a Stanley Cup champion. He's been a consistent scorer throughout his time there. So I don't mind it. You know, he's still got 3 years left on his deal.
Yes, including this year. Yeah,
including this year. So 2 after this year. And he's not necessarily the piece that you would have put at the top of the list of this is the guy that I feel like can fill the gaps on the power play.
Right.
The number 2 center spot. But he fits in with this Islanders middle six, and whether that's going to be good enough to help them get to the playoffs and have some success while they're there remains to be seen. So I think the price to get him was appropriate. You know, it seemed like a lot of teams that were nominally sellers, St. Louis, the Rangers, Jersey, Nashville, set a very high price for their guys.
Right.
The Rangers didn't do anything. The Devils didn't do anything. 2 teams that you would have thought down at the bottom need to shake things up. Rangers declared their intention to shake things up and didn't move Vincent Trocheck.
Oh, well.
So that left buyers like the Islanders kind of feeling like, okay, well, we're going to have to commit to this. And the first-round pick, which is Colorado's, going to be probably 28 to 32. It's really not that big a deal to give that one up, especially when you have your own first-round pick. I'm sure if the Islanders had already traded their own pick, they probably wouldn't have been so eager to get rid of that one. And Marcus Gidloff is the name of the Swedish goalie.
That's right.
I knew it was on the tip of your tongue. You know, they have some goalie prospects. They have kind of hopefully a guy in Dmitry Gamzin who's over in the KHL.
Right.
Who's really been playing great there. Maybe that's going to be their next Ilya Sorokin. He signed for a few more years in the KHL. Everyone else, you know, goalies that you draft, all completely crapshoots.
Yes, yes.
Their goalie development is very nonlinear. You're going to be waiting a while to see the fruits of that. So I think it was an easy decision to give him up. You hold on to your top prospects. which I think was Matthew Darsh, as he said after the deadline, that was his stated goal, was to not give up any of the big names that they've got. They held on to them. So for me, it's a two-part trade. It's a first and the goalie prospect for Schenn,
Sure.
and then you're trading Jersey's third that they got on the Palat deal to get St. Louis to take the remainder of Drouin's contract, which has got another year to go. And that is a big piece of this, because you need to have some flexibility still. They're adding salary as you compare Drouin's, whatever it was, 4.25 versus Schenn's 6.5. So you got to give yourself some flexibility there. And we've certainly talked about it ad nauseum about Drouin and his lack of success, whatever it was, 40-some games without a goal, still getting top 6 minutes. So if you're swapping the guys out, yeah, of course you want Brayden Schenn instead of Jonathan Drouin.
Right.
Brayden Schenn does a lot of different stuff. He's a natural center. He doesn't flip back and forth. So, I think taken in that narrow look of the trade, I think the Islanders did well. They got a guy that fits what they do, hopefully takes them to a different level of what they've been doing, subtracts a guy who wasn't fitting in, and the cost was an extra asset that they had. I think you can certainly justify it in saying that was really their only movable asset that they have outside of their prospects until the June draft. Obviously then you have to either select it or trade it right before. So if things don't go the way that they want through the end of the regular season, if they don't make the playoffs, God forbid, or if they get bounced in the first round very quickly and you say, gosh, I wish they could have done more. Now you have to dip into the prospect pool to do that in the off season. So it's certainly, you could, if you're not a fan of the deal, I totally get that. So taken separately as just one move, I like it. I think it was a proper amount of assets to give up, and they got a guy who I think fits what they do.
Yeah, for me, it's a mixed bag, right? And, a lot of expectations were set, as you alluded to earlier,
Certainly.
that, you look at this retool plan that the Islanders have, and that's why names like Kyrou and such were coming up, right? Because he's still in his mid-20s, guy who had 3 30-goal seasons, right? And a guy who can kind of grow with this team as it retools and be a part of the future, right? So that obviously gets swapped in for a guy who's 34. He's got an additional 2 years after this year, as we just noted, $6.5 million on the cap. And is it good in the immediate? Yeah, sure. He's, again, like you said, better option than Jonathan Drouin. He's a guy who's tailor-made for the playoffs. Should they get there, he's going to help out there, right? But when you look at the entire picture, it's like, you look at the first rounder. Now, granted, it's the Colorado's one, and everybody's very quick to say, it's basically like a second rounder because they're either winning the cup or they're going to the finals.
It's a first rounder.
Right?
It still counts.
Right. And who's to say that, things go awry, right? But that being said, I think heading in, you would have thought to yourself that first rounder could have gone further for the Islanders, right? Whether it's at the deadline or even hanging on to it for the summer, right?
Yes.
So maybe Darsh and his team were in this spot now where, okay, we want to reward this team. We want to add to this team. Maybe this isn't the first door we knocked on in the hotel room.
That's right.
To bring over to the Islanders, but still a guy who they looked very happy to get. Yeah. And, not for nothing, the pundits who have actually been in the game, you have almost all these guys now, who have played in the NHL that are on NHL Network. And here in the Pat Maroon, I saw him, he was saying glowing things about the move and stuff like that, right? So it's definitely a positive move in the immediate. But it makes me wonder, what's the overall plan when you couple this move and then you add the 3 years that you just gave to JG Pageau? Another guy in his mid-30s. Yes. And if you go to Puckpedia, and you look down that roster, there's a lot of guys that are over the age of 30 that have a couple of years on their deals too. Palmieri's going to be back next year. He's in his mid-30s. You have guys maybe entering their mid-30s very soon. And you're just like, well, and I'm sure Darsh and co are aware of this, and I'm sure they do have a game plan. But I am very curious to see how that unfolds when you have a lot of these guys who, how are they going to look next year, the year after, right? So cool for now. What's happening afterwards?
Well, that's why I said, taken on its own.
Yes.
I don't mind this trade.
Yeah.
Now, as you're processing it when it's happening and you see the full picture of it, you say to yourself, oh, okay, well, that is insurance against JG Pageau leaving in free agency because they are similar style players. Yeah. I would say Schenn is a little bit more skilled, has a little bit more scoring pedigree. He was the Blues' number 2 center. Now the Blues are terrible. So I don't know if that's a compliment to him or that's a negative for St. Louis.
Yeah.
So you're saying to yourself, as the wheels are turning, you say, okay, if they're not going to sign J.G. Pageau, this is a guy who you could see filling that number 3 center role for a couple of years.
Sure.
And as the words are in a bubble out of your mouth talking to somebody, in comes J.G. Pageau, 3 years, $4.85 million, full no move or full no trade clause for years 1 and 2.
Yes, year 3 is 16.
So you say to yourself, I'm a little puzzled. And that's fair.
Which is fair.
And that is fair because unless they can figure out a way to get out from under some other things, this is the team now beyond this season.
Yes.
And it is not getting younger.
No.
The core of it. You're not creating a lot of room for some young guys.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't really have a ton of forwards. But if Danny Nelson comes into training camp and blows everybody away, and this is a guy who you could slot in on your third line on the wing. I don't know if he's going to be a center right away or even on your fourth line. I don't know if there's a lot of room for him. And I understand people saying like, well, Schenn could be a wing and Ritchie could be a center. I don't think that's going to be the case in the immediate future. And I don't even think that's going to be the plan starting next season. Brayden Schenn is a center. He's a good center. He wins faceoffs. He's a hard-nosed guy. Cal Ritchie has had a lot of time at center. I think the consensus could be, and maybe with different wingers than having Jonathan Drouin not on his wing, maybe he can be a little bit better as a center. But I think the determination of part of this move was Cal Ritchie is not ready to be a number 2 or number 3 center.
Mm-hmm.
So now you've got Horvat, Schenn, Pageau, and Cizikas down the middle, signed for at least a couple years beyond this season, every single one of them.
Mm-hmm.
All of them well past 30. So you say to yourself, where is the space for guys that can pop, that can surprise? Where is the space for someone who can steal a roster spot from someone? I don't know that it's there. And certainly on defense, other than maybe a Tony DeAngelo spot, everything is really locked in.
And not only that, Arthur, but in Matthew Darsh's post-deadline show, if you will, he mentioned he plans on negotiating with Anders Lee after the season's over. Now, does that guarantee he's bringing him back? Not necessarily.
Right. And I think with Anders Lee, Anders Lee can play on the fourth line if need be. I don't know that he has the wheels to do it with the way that Cizikas plays and the guys that are there now. Mm-hmm. But he's not really going to be an impediment. I don't even know that he needs to be an everyday player if he signs an extension beyond.
Yeah, and I don't raise that to be anti.
No, I know. But I get what you're saying, that like if there's an extension for Anders Lee, and he certainly, to me, in a vacuum, just Anders Lee.
Yes.
I think he's earned it.
Right.
He is as loyal a guy as has been. He'll be the longest tenured captain if he goes beyond this season in Islanders history, which is amazing to think about. You got nothing bad to say about him, and the way that he's kind of rejiggered his game into his mid-30s to be an effective defensive player in addition to a guy who still contributes goals every now and again. You don't mind that. But again, taking all these moves together, you say, I understand if there's a plan in place, but if the plan was to get older right off the bat in Matthew Darsh's first season with an 18-year-old superstar in the making on D, and then you're just going to surround him with 30-plus-year-old guys, that's a curious plan to me.
They are definitely executing the plan.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Nothing is set in stone for next season, but I don't know that. I think I would have liked these moves separate from each other without the other one happening. But with the Schenn trade and the Pageau extension, I'm curious to see if it has a positive effect, if it brings them to another level that they can get to this season. Because I think the way we've seen them play this week, and really since they came back from the break, they need to tighten a lot of things up. They need to be better. I don't know that Pittsburgh scares you a ton, but there's teams in the East now, Buffalo, Tampa, Carolina, who I don't think the Islanders can beat them the way that they're playing right now. They're not fast enough. They're not quick enough. And I don't know if Brayden Schenn and an extended J.G. Pageau are the moves that get you to that place where you can be competitive.
Well, one way or another, Arthur, we're going to find out.
That's true.
All right, folks, I want to thank you all for tuning in to Hockey Night in New York. We are going to take a break, and when we come back, Alan Fuehring will be joining us.
When in need of representation, it's not always easy to know where to turn. But whether you've been accused of a crime or need to go to court, Razor, Kniff & Lonstein, attorneys at law, have you covered with over 100 years of combined experience. With offices in Manhattan, Mineola, and Suffolk, Razor, Kniff & Lonstein is an award-winning law firm specializing in criminal defense with additional expertise in business debt settlement, trust and estates, personal injury, and more. At Razor, Kniff & Lonstein, you'll have direct access to your attorney 24/7. Because more attentive service translates to better outcomes. You deserve legal representatives with national recognition and a strong track record of delivering results. And Razor, Kniff & Lonstein are ready to fight for you. Call 212-LAW-1500 or go to razorandkniff.com to schedule a free, no-risk consultation today. That's RAISERANDKENNIFF.com. Razor, Kniff & Lonstein. We win cases because we make your problems our problems. Attention all artists, storytellers, and creators of all kinds. It's time to make your content stand out above the rest. And Floored Media is the place to make your visions become a reality. Maybe you want to elevate your podcast and add some video, or turn that novel you wrote into an audiobook. Or maybe you just need the right space to produce your daily vlog. Whether you're a seasoned veteran or just starting out, Floored Media has the professional facilities, exceptional staff, and intimate atmosphere to breathe life into your creative passions at every step of the process.
Hope you enjoyed the ads. Now let's get back to Hockey Night in New York.
That's right, folks. Let's get back to Hockey Night in New York. It is time for On the Line, presented by Razor, Kniff & Lonstein. And joining us right now on the program is Mr. Alan Fuehring. Alan, great to have you on, man. How are you?
What's going on, fellas? Thanks for having me. I love the show. I apologize that it's taken me this long to join you. So happy to be here.
Yeah, man. Been trying to get you on for a while, but stoked that you're finally here. Let's start talking about you, man. Basically 14 years in the broadcast game after graduating from Bradley University. Spent some time with the Peoria Rivermen, the Greenville Swamp Rabbits. Want to hear more about that. The Bridgeport Islanders / Sound Tigers, the Chicago Blackhawks, and now, of course, landing with the New York Islanders. Just tell us a little about what that journey's been like and landing in a great family with Brendan Burke, Shannon Hogan, Thomas Hickey, Butchie, and Cal Clutterbuck.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much time you guys have. I could take up probably
take as much as you want, buddy.
Yes.
Come on, let's go.
I mean, I could take up 3-4 hours easily. Where do I start? As you mentioned, I went to Bradley University. I'm a Morton, Illinois kid. Peoria is about 10 minutes away. That, just happened to be the university close by. I didn't necessarily think I was going to go there, but it worked out that way. I went into sports communication and, just to kind of pull back, I'd always wanted to be in broadcasting, play-by-play. That was kind of what I had always wanted to do. I didn't really know how I was going to get into it or, where I was going to start, but I figured, Bradley had this new sports communication program. Let's see what it's all about. There's some Hall of Fame names out there who have come through Bradley. Jack Brickhouse, Chick Hearn, a lot of names. So, I went there. My sophomore year happened to get an internship with the Peoria Rivermen, which was an American Hockey League team at the time in the St. Louis organization. And funny enough, looking back, I mean, this is almost 20 years ago now, but a gentleman who I had never heard of sent an email, and his name was Brendan Burke, just saying, awesome. Do any students at Bradley University want to help me out with the public relations, media relations, broadcasting with the team? And, my uncle was a former head coach in the NHL. My cousins all play. I've always loved the game of hockey. And so I said, you know what, this might be fun. Let's look into it. Met Brendan, did an internship my sophomore year, fell in love with it, came back, helped him out my junior year and liked it so much I came back for a third year as a senior there. So I was under Brendan kind of learning the ropes, and I didn't know how valuable that would be, but I was getting a PhD in play-by-play and in everything else that goes on in the minor leagues from Brendan. This is back in 2008 or 2009. And I've kept in touch, obviously, with him ever since. And I've been, very good friends with him since. So my journey actually started out with Fox Sports, though, in production. I was doing a lot of motorsports behind the scenes, NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula One. I couldn't get a play-by-play job out of college. I was a finalist for 4 different gigs, and I didn't get any of them. And I said, you know what, maybe this isn't for me, but I still want to be in sports. So I went to Fox and I did production for a year and a half. the Peoria Rivermen ended up getting sold by the St. Louis Blues. A minor league, a local owner stepped up and wanted to keep a minor league team around. So, a very good friend of mine, Bart Rogers, who is still the owner in Peoria, brought an SPHL team into town, Southern Professional Hockey League. I don't know if you guys know anything about the SPHL, but very, kind of low level, single A, almost a beer league type of an opportunity for me. There's only 10 teams in the league, again, very low level. But what that did for me is it allowed me to get in the door, do play-by-play as a professional at 23 years old. And I could make mistakes galore, right? Like I could, just have the worst games ever, make every mistake possible. And I learned from it and nobody was there to call me out. Now, if I make a mistake, I get all these fans online that are calling me out on it. I didn't have that back then. So great opportunity to learn. Thankfully, after 1 year, the Greenville, it was the Road Warriors at the time, now the Swamp Rabbits. They had an opening. Their guy moved up to the AHL, and I was fortunate to be in the right place at the right time. Ended up getting hired in Greenville. It's funny, I was a Road Warrior my first year. The rebrand happened. I was the Swamp Rabbits for the second year. And then I got the job in Bridgeport and started out as the Sound Tigers, went to the Islanders. I've had a whole lot of rebrands throughout my career, but not 9 years in Bridgeport. And I couldn't be more thankful for that. Probably, 8-9 years longer than I wanted to be in the American Hockey League, but what a great league that is. What a great learning environment. The players that come through there are the nicest people possible. A lot of the relationships I'm able to still keep in touch with, Simon Holmstrom, Kyle McLean, some of those guys, Ryan Pollock, Scott Mayfield, I can go on and on. But at the end of the day, for me, like this opportunity with the New York Islanders is great, and it's very special. It's even more so that much more special because of what I went through going through 12, 13 years in the minor leagues. And, there's a lot of late nights when you're in the AHL or in the ECHL, when you're on a bus at 3, 4 a.m. and you're staring out the window and everybody else on the bus is asleep. And you're just kind of thinking to yourself, man, like, is this ever going to be worth it? Right? Like, is this ever going to pay off? Am I doing the right thing? And it just goes to show that, for me, I'm not anything special, right? Like I got lucky getting an internship under Brendan Burke and, I've kind of learned the ropes under him, but, I worked my ass off all these years to get this opportunity. And, the reality is I've always wanted to be a play-by-play guy, but when you're in the minor leagues, you've got to do everything else, right? Like 99.9% of your time is spent on public relations, on booking hotels, booking meals, community relations, all this other stuff. And I did all that during the day. So at night I could sit down in my home office and I could, prepare for a broadcast the next day. And that was all off the clock. But for me, that's what I wanted to do. So long story short, it's been super rewarding for me.
Awesome.
Well, Alan, yes, I obviously dealt with you many, many times over the years in Bridgeport as one of the few media people that would come in. And I think that's the part. It's great that you mentioned that. I was going to ask about that I think people don't understand. They hear the broadcast, whether you were doing a Bridgeport game or now doing the Islanders radio. And now you get to show up and do the game. You put all the work in, but that's the job. In the AHL and even lower, like you said, you're using up most of your time, your on the clock time to do all those things that team services does or public relations do at the NHL level. How do you delegate that kind of time? How do you fit 28 or 30 hours of work into a 24-hour day?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of learning. It's, I was horrible at time management my first year. And, I was so stressed my first year in Bridgeport because there was just so much stuff. And I was like, I don't know how to get through this. And I almost put broadcasting like completely on the side. And I'm like, you know what? Like, thankfully, we're playing Providence for the 38th time this month, and I already know them, so I don't have to prepare as much.
That's great.
But at the same time, like as the years went on, I learned like, hey, look, like I'm only going to get better and get an NHL opportunity, or at least get in a position to be considered for one, if I treat these broadcasts like I'm already in the NHL and do the work that I need to do. So, again, it was a lot of learning. It was a lot of, man, like I did all of these things and I didn't do this one thing. And that's the one thing I should have been focused on and done. It was a lot of, I was writing web stories and press releases And oh shoot, I forgot to get per diem. I forgot to walk to the bank and cash out an $18,000 check and get all these different 50s and 20s and 10s so I could put them in envelopes and give to the players, right? Because the next day we had a road trip. It's Alan, you have the per diem, right? And it's like, oh shoot, I didn't go to the bank. Let me go run and do that, because I was worried about all this other stuff. And so, it takes time. And again, like, I'm so thankful looking back that I had 9 great years in Bridgeport to learn all these different things and all these things that I don't have to do anymore, thank goodness. But it helped me grow as a professional and an individual. And, I don't know if that's a great answer for you, Arthur, but just for me, it was a lot of learning. It was a lot of like, oh, shoot, I did not do this. We show up to a hotel at 2 a.m. and, oh, crap, we had this guy join us from New York. He just got sent down and I don't have a hotel room for him. I got to figure out a way to do that. So it was a lot of, lighting a fire under me sometimes, but it all worked out.
That's awesome. And, you talk about the work and the grind that you put in to get here. You've had countless guys who, players who have that same grind mentality, and some of them don't even make it. I happened to see, I think it was today or yesterday, Chris Terry playing his 1100th professional game. These guys are fantastic guys. They put in the work and we don't really notice them. Are there a couple guys in your time in Bridgeport that you can just point out who you say, watching guys on the team who are grinding as much as you were to try to get where you were going, and just you say, man, that guy's an inspiration to me as a team employee, because he's putting in the work every day and it may not happen for him.
Yeah. You bring up Chris Terry. He's one of my favorite individuals in the entire game. The professionalism he brings, he just loves hockey. He loves playing. He got a taste of the NHL. I think he played a little more than 150 games, but 1,100 in the American Hockey League is something else. Chris Bork, AHL Hall of Famer as of inducted a couple of months ago. Another guy, right? Like, he got a taste, but his dad was Ray Bork, and I'm sure he always wanted to be that type of player. Never really worked out as far as a full-time NHL role for Chris Bork, but the same type of thing. Like, I learned a ton from him because he showed up every day, consummate professional, the cliche first guy on the ice, last guy off of it, great mentor to the younger guys. Like I've always said, I get asked a lot, like, what's your favorite part of the job? And that's such a tough thing a lot of times to kind of put into perspective. But, for me, the favorite part has always been seeing how rewarding it is for players to work so hard in the AHL and then get a shot in the NHL. And even sticking is another thing, but even just getting a couple of games before they get sent back down, like what a difference that makes in their lives. On the other side of it too, like how heartbreaking it is to know how hard guys are working year after year after year, and they either don't get a shot or they get called up and they play 3 minutes, right? Yeah. And then they get sent back down, and it's like, man, like, I know how hard this guy's working behind the scenes. Nobody else is going to know this, but all of these guys are out there to achieve a dream, and that's to play in the NHL and then to stick there. So, I kind of see both sides of it, but yeah, for me, it was a little source of inspiration. Like I felt like I did all of these things for the players as far as booking rooms and coordinating things and everything that I was very happy to do. I'm not complaining about it at all. But then, like, on the other side of it, they're giving me something back, whether they know it or not. Like, their drive to make the NHL rubbed off on me more times than not.
Well, Alan, it's great to hear that you were able to mirror that on the broadcasting side, putting all that time in you did, and here you are now with the Islanders. But I have a question for you just regarding now, every now and then over the course of your career, right? Maybe you have a great player, depending on the schedule, what team you end up playing every now and then, right? For the sake of argument, you play Edmonton twice a year, you get to call Connor McDavid, right? Austin Matthews in Toronto. But what's it like being able to call games featuring Matthew Schaefer on a game-to-game basis?
None of us knew how lucky we were back over the summer. We all were very fortunate that the Islanders got the #1 overall pick. But looking back now, like, what a blessing for the fans, for those media, broadcasters. He's special, right? Like, and I've run out of words. I've talked with Brendan a lot about this too. Like, what other adjectives are there that we haven't already used on this kid? It's incredible, and he's an 18-year-old who's got his entire career ahead of him, and here we are already putting him up against some of the greats of all time and all these records he's breaking. The #1 thing I say to all these other radio and TV broadcasters when they come in as visitors is, like, if you haven't seen him in person yet, just wait for this game to start, right? You can watch him on TV. You can see these highlights. You can hear about him. Until you see him in person, it's even that much more impressive. The amount of ground he can cover so quickly, the way he can defend and then immediately get up into the rush. And if he loses the puck, he can immediately get back and take care of his own zone again. Like, all this stuff, like, we know, like us that cover the Islanders, all the fans that watch him day in and day out, but even the national media members, when they see this kid for the first time and they're like, wow, like, he's that good. And we're like, yeah, we know. It's going to be really interesting to see. I don't even think we know yet where his ceiling is, right? And so, like, how much better can this kid get?
Yeah, that's awesome. Just taking it back to the world you inhabit in broadcasting, when you look at, and like you said, you're not a Long Islander. You are now, and you've been in this organization for a decade. When you see the history, whether it's when you get to see Jiggs McDonald, hosting a ceremony, or Howie Rose chiming in on Twitter about the Islanders, and on to Brendan, for as much as the Islanders have been, let's say, mocked a little bit in the NHL circles for some of the things that have happened in their history, the broadcasting history is second to none. Honestly, it's for a team 100%. That started 50 years ago, no one has a better, no NHL team has a better broadcasting history. Do you pinch yourself a little bit? I know you've known Brendan for such a long time, but when you get to meet a guy like Jiggs, who's, in addition to being a legend, might be the nicest person who's ever existed too. What does that feel like to you, to be part of that incredible history?
Yeah, it's surreal. It really hasn't hit home. Like, I don't feel like my name should be in the same sentence as those guys. Jiggs, I met a couple of years ago for the first time, could not have been nicer. Like, that's what struck me, is I know how great of a broadcaster he was and has continued to be over the years. And obviously now he's living in Florida, living his best life in retirement, but how kind he was to me the very first time I ever met him. Same with Howie Rose when he came to a game. I think it was his first game at UBS. I was filling in for Brendan when he had COVID, and how kind and welcoming Howie was to me. And I was just some kid who was called up from Bridgeport for a couple of games. Like, he didn't have to go out of his way to be as welcoming as he was. So, I mean, that aside, like, just the broadcast pedigree, as you mentioned, is I don't think any other organization is better. Even some of the guys that are working for other teams now, John Weideman for the Blackhawks, Steve Mears has had a couple of great gigs with the Penguins, now the Blue Jackets. And, I don't feel like I fit in that sentence. I will say these days, I wish Brendan wasn't so damn good, because
there it is.
When I fill in, it's, Alan's great, but I really wish Brendan was here. Like, yeah, I wish Brendan was doing every game too. He's awesome. He's been such a blessing for me in my life, and his friendship means more than anything. But he's one of the best, and I think everybody on Long Island knows that as well. But to answer your question, I pinch me moments all the time, no doubt.
And Alan, how's the ride been just covering this team this year, right? Expectations were probably a little lower. They're in a playoff spot now. It's looking pretty good. They're going to be in the thick of it either way. How's the ride been just covering this team? You talked about Schaefer, but even just, this team coming together, Holmstrom, D'Angelo, going on down the list here, Sorokin having a phenomenal year. I mean, has it been a ball for you?
Yeah, it's been everything. It's been more than what I had ever imagined. Again, like, this year has been great. The reality is now I can focus only on broadcasting, and I can go to morning skates and I can talk to the guys, and I can get, some information that I can use later on in the night, something that in the last 13 years I wasn't really able to do, because I got to know these guys on a personal level, but either it wasn't, I wasn't getting information to use in my broadcast, or I would find a lot of stuff out that I couldn't use in a broadcast for a lot of different reasons. And so now, I mean, just, this ride is amazing. And I think we're just getting started this year. What's great about this team is you never know who's going to step up, right? Like, you never know whose night it is. A lot of times Matthew Schaefer's been the guy. Bo Horvat's been the guy. Elias Sorokin has stolen games for this team, and he's been the guy as we've come to know over the years. But, every once in a while it's, a JG Pageau overtime winner after a face-off win, right? Like, Simon Holmstrom chips in. That Cizikas, McLean, Gatcomb line comes through, and, it's hard to play against as they are. Like, they can chip in on offense here and there and do it when it matters the most. Like, you never know who's going to be the guy. And just like we've seen the last few weeks, I guess, like, even when this team goes down in years past, it's like, all right, well, let's just move on to the next game. Like, you're not going to win them all. But even when this team goes down by 2 goals in the first period, it's like, okay, don't turn off the channel or don't, tune out of the radio, like stay put, because this team is going to come back. They will. And, what's the third period going to look like? So, from a broadcaster perspective, that's great. Like the game's not over ever in the first period. You always got to stick around to the end.
Good.
Well, Alan, absolutely been a pleasure having you on the show here tonight. Keep up the outstanding work. Thank you for the kind words on the show, and hope to talk to you again down the road. Yeah,
I would love to join you guys anytime. I appreciate you having me.
Awesome. Thanks, Thank you so much. That was the great Alan Fuehring. Island man does an outstanding job, whether it's on the radio, whether it's filling in for Brendan. Just like you said, the Islander fans have been absolutely spoiled for decades in the broadcast booth.
Yeah.
And just going on down from Jigs, Howie, Brendan, Alan. It's been great to watch and listen to these guys, no matter how good or bad the team's playing.
Yeah,
they do a great job.
And I fully anticipate Brendan is going to, he already does plenty of national broadcasts. If the time comes where he gets called up to be a full-time national guy or gets called up to do another sport, Alan, to me, would be a seamless transition.
Absolutely.
Again, continue to be spoiled, and Alan's a pro, and he much like Brendan, put the hours in, put the years in, honing his craft, doing all these other jobs like Brendan did. We're lucky here. We're really lucky.
And great to get the backstory on just the grind in the AHL, right? Like you just don't, like they're not just showing up with the microphone and calling the game, right?
No.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So outstanding stuff from him, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in to Hockey Night in New York. That'll do it for On the Line, presented by Razor Kniffen Lonstein. Ready to fight when your good name is on the line. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it's time for What's on Tap.
Representation, it's not always easy to know where to turn. But whether you've been accused of a crime or need to go to court, Razor Kniffen Lonstein Attorneys at Law have you covered with over 100 years of combined experience. With offices in Manhattan, Mineola, and Suffolk, Razor Kniffen Lonstein is an award-winning law firm specializing in criminal defense with additional expertise in business debt settlement, trust and estates, personal injury, and more. At Razor Kniffen Lonstein, you'll have direct access to your attorney 24/7. Because more attentive service translates to better outcomes. You deserve legal representatives with national recognition and a strong track record of delivering results. And Razor Kniffen Lonstein are ready to fight for you. Call 212-LAW-1500 or go to razorandkniff.com to schedule a free, no-risk consultation today. That's RAISERANDKENNIFF.com. Razor Kniffen Lonstein. We win cases because we make your problems our problems.
Hey there, welcome back. We missed you too. Now kick up your feet and settle back in to Hockey Night in New York.
That's right, folks. It's time to come back to Hockey Night in New York. Outstanding interview with Alan Fuehring. And now it's time for What's on Tap. And Arthur, how appropriate to start with the Jonathan Drouin revenge game.
Oh, yeah.
Right off the bat here, on Tuesday the 10th, the Islanders will be in St. Louis for a 7:30 puck drop. A depleted St. Louis Blues team, but a team with, nothing to lose here, right? You still got to take them seriously, but this is 2 points, especially in the tight race that the Islanders in right now. You got to take these points.
Yeah, I mean, we've been on the other side of it many years, finally getting past the deadline.
Yes.
You figure out who's staying and who's going. Everybody breathes a sigh of relief. Essentially this season is over and you're just playing for a job. And boy, we've seen the Islanders win a lot of games in that scenario.
Some false encouragement for the next season.
So the dead cat bounce is real, especially after the deadline. So you got to be aware of the Blues. You got to be aware of it's going to be an emotional night for Brayden Schenn for sure. Mm-hmm. Going right back there. I'm sure there's going to be, he was the captain of that team for several years. There's going to be a nice video tribute. Fans are hopefully going to turn out to honor him for all his time there. So that's a tough one to kind of turn right around.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so the focus definitely has to be there. And considering, they did obviously get the 2 points with the overtime win over San Jose last night, but the previous 2 games on this road trip were not games that that's why we skipped right over them.
Correct.
They sucked,
Why bother?
quite frankly. 2 bad games. I don't know that we've seen the Islanders play a really good 60-minute game since the Olympic break. They've had some really good moments.
Fair to say.
But whether it's, you get 2 points when you're rallying from 2 goals down, it's exciting. But I think we want to see them play a consistent level. The playoffs are not assured. Columbus has really been coming on strong. Pittsburgh, pulled another one out this afternoon in overtime to leapfrog back over the Islanders. So,
yeah, it's a shame.
I understand the Islanders certainly don't think that they're in a comfortable spot, but they need to play more like it. And I think starting with this game in St. Louis would be a good spot.
And not only that, Arthur, but there's no 3-on-3 overtime in the playoffs. And I joked around.
That is a shame. I wish we could bring the Olympic rules.
I joked around. I was like, hey, maybe they should do 3-on-3 overtime. For the sake of the Islanders. But no, that is blasphemy. No, thank you, never.
It's an incredible stat that they're 9-0 in overtime.
And cash money.
I know.
In overtime.
I know. And you would think the way that they've played 5-on-5 against some teams that are a little bit younger and a little bit faster, where they have a little bit of difficulty handling them, when they get to 3-on-3, you'd be like, okay, they're going to get run over. Doesn't happen.
They cracked the code.
I know.
They really did.
They really have.
They really have. All right, moving on to Friday. The Los Angeles Kings come to town. That is a 7 p.m. puck drop. Little revenge for the poor performance this past week. We didn't get to talk about it, but that was not a great game for the Islanders. No. They dropped that one 5-3. Patrick Watt pulled the goalie early, just like he did in the Anaheim game for similar reasons. But another team that's beatable on paper. Yes, they have Panarin there now. He scored his first goal, as we know.
Got his old
as
number
a King.
back. I saw yesterday.
Yeah, and you can't leave him wide open like they did in the first period last week, right? It's
disappointing to watch. A team that doesn't give up a ton of goals or hasn't given up a ton of goals this year. They've really been giving up a lot since. I think really their best defensive effort, even though they gave up a lot of chances and Sorokin was really good, their best defensive effort obviously was against San Jose, just giving up the one goal. But I feel like, Sorokin, I thought good to see him getting back to his usual form because I don't know that he'd been playing so great. But yeah, they need to tighten things up defensively. I think LA is not a prolific scoring team. They made some curious moves, bringing in Panarin, sending out Corey Perry, sending out Warren Foegele. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on there. But most importantly, first game back at home after a long trip out of the time zone. It's good that they have a couple days to kind of reacclimate themselves after Tuesday's game because they've got the back-to-back, and then they go back out on the road again. So make these home games count because they do have such a home-heavy schedule once they're done with the road there. Now, you see Sorokin against the Kings on Friday, Riddick against Calgary? Yeah, probably. Yeah. We've talked about it on the show. David Riddick hasn't been good. He wasn't good in Anaheim, but they're going to need him. They still got 5 back-to-backs left, so I hope that he can at least be capable enough to allow them to win a game. Calgary is another team. I'm sure I don't want to bite off your intro here.
It's
but
the same story as St. Louis. Out of the picture,
probably
traded Kadri.
Yeah. A team that has been at the bottom of the standings pretty much all year. I mean, not below Vancouver, but never really got out of the starting gate. Obviously made some big moves, but they're still dangerous. And the Islanders can't assume anything. These are 3 teams this week that are not in playoff position. Right. But you got to, we've talked about them playing down to the level of your opponents. I don't know that you can even count that anymore because the Islanders could end up being outside the playoff picture if they're not showing up in this week.
Why would you say that?
Sorry.
Why would you say that?
This is reality, man.
Unbelievable.
Got to deal with it.
Well, that's Saturday back-to-back, second end, as you said. That's the 14th. That's a 7 p.m. puck drop as well. 2 home games back-to-back are nice. The Islanders are very good on the tail end of back-to-back. So if anything, maybe they got 2 points in their pocket against the Flames if we're going with previous results. But as you said, I mean, this is a stretch here where you have Pittsburgh that are pulling out points where you didn't expect them to come from. You have Columbus that's refusing to give up points as well. And it's no cakewalk here. Yes, Washington's falling out. They traded Carlson, so that's going to help a little bit. They're out of the picture now.
Ottawa's starting to turn it back around.
If you're worried about the wild card.
And the wild card situation, I think it's Detroit and Boston are there now, but those teams are picking up points. You'd love to see the Islanders be ahead of that so that it gives them a little bit of cushion if they lose a couple that they can fall into a wild card instead of straight out of it like they would be right now. But they seem to find ways to get points. I have some faith. You watch that San Jose game, obviously the late penalty on Adam Pelech, and you're thinking like, oh gosh, if they lose this one in regulation, what a road trip this is. And they not only are able to kill that into overtime, and really they're kind of on their heels the first half of that overtime. And Bo Horvat pounding his stick on the ice for Matthew Schaefer, blowing by everybody.
That whole sequence was outstanding.
I mean, they, like you said, I wish they could put a few of those together in regulation, but they'll take it when you can get it, because they've certainly put themselves in a position where the 2 points are more important than regulation wins or whatever the tiebreaker is. You just got to be able to finish in that top 3 when the season ends.
Yeah, and speaking of tiebreakers, the Islanders do currently have the tiebreakers against Columbus. I know they're ahead in regulation wins, regulation overtime wins, so I guess that gives you maybe a smidgen more of breathing room against them. But at the end of the day, you still got to collect your own points. And the truth is, Arthur, if you look further down the schedule, after they get through the road trip next week, they're playing basically every game at home. They have 10 road games.
10 of 12 at home.
Yeah, the Buffalo game, which we'll talk about in a second, and Carolina, I think, in April. So, I mean, it's on the table there to collect a ton of points at home. Yeah, there'll be some tougher teams here and there, but the Islanders are in the driver's seat, and it's their spot to lose in the playoffs.
Yep, I agree. And they've put themselves in a great position. Nothing is assured, but the way that Sorokin's been playing, the way Schaefer's been playing, Barzal, Horvat, they've got enough horses. If they get there, they could still do a lot of damage. I don't think Pittsburgh scares them. Carolina has been their kryptonite in the playoffs for the last however many years. I don't think that's a team that scares them. My buddy Steve Valiquette put out a little data chart on Twitter the other day, pointing out the teams that are worst in surrendering rush chances in the league. Carolina is 32nd.
That's
they give up the
hard
most
to believe.
Rush chances, and as Steve pointed out, those are the most dangerous scoring chances give up. And historically, based on his data, if you are not in the top 10 in that category, rush chances against, you basically have no chance to advance deep in the playoffs. All the Stanley Cup champions come from that top 10 because you got to know how to defend, especially when you get into multiple overtimes. Just defending it, defense wins championships. We always talk about it, but this particular data point is really important when you look at historical data. So, Carolina to me is there for the taking too. So I feel like things are opening up for the Islanders like they have all year. Take advantage of it. Let's see them get some points out of these games. You don't have to go 9-0 here in these, leading into the end of the season, but definitely put yourselves in better position.
No doubt about it, and we'll see if Brayden Schenn puts them in better position.
Let's hope so.
Let's hope so. And skipping ahead to March 31st, Tuesday, the Islanders will face the Buffalo Sabres in Buffalo. We will be hosting a watch party at Chris and Tony's in Syosset. Looking forward to that. Can't wait to be there. So for anybody, towards the eastern part of Long Island who hasn't been able to make it to Borelli's in Long Beach on the South Shore, we're kind of going diagonally up to the northeastern edge of Nassau County now. We couldn't get through customs to book a Suffolk Suffolk watch party yet. But Chris and Tony's, Syosset, March 31st, Islanders Sabres. That's going to be a big game, so come on down. Going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I love those watch parties. I'm sad I missed the big Olympic ones at Borelli's.
Yeah, man. Those were a great time.
So we could make it. Maybe that'll be the night the Islanders can clinch a playoff spot. So what would be better?
How about that? Okay. I like that tie-in. All right, so that's going to do it for What's on Tap. Great stuff there. And now let's go to Hero of the Week. That's right. It's time to talk about players that did good in a rough week for the New York Islanders. But lucky for us, we get to include the Florida game.
That's right.
Because our last show was a pregame show.
That's right.
For the Florida game. So, Arthur, if you please, could you go first?
Sure. I'm gonna.
Do you remember this time?
I do remember this time. I'm gonna go with Matthew Barzal. I feel like he is still putting up points, even in less than ideal situations, like the Anaheim game, like the LA game. I just like the way that he's playing, and the feistiness he played with last night.
Yeah, let's see more of that.
The hit on Celebrini, Macklin Celebrini was not. He walked off from his post-game interview when somebody asked him about it. He felt like that was a really dirty
teen
hit.
Angst.
So, and Barzal and Horvat kind of were giving William Eklund the business a little bit on the bench. A little birdie told me that was based on Bo Horvat's stick that William Eklund took to the San Jose bench and would not return, which is really kind of
okay. So maybe he should have been fined too.
Hockey code. He got the noogie there from Horvat, and Barzal was giving him the business too. And you like to see Matthew Barzal get in the middle of everything like that. So I feel like between that consistent scoring, you're hopeful that he could get to maybe 70 points this year, which would be a good number for him. So that's my pick. I want to give an addendum off the books here.
Sure. Have fun.
It's International Women's Day. It's Women in Hockey Day. I want to shout out one of the longest serving Islander employees I think they've ever had, Joanne Hollowa, who's their manager of hockey operations. She's been there. Bill Torrey hired her back in 1980.
Wow.
She's got 4 rings. And she is the coolest lady on earth. If you ever asked whether it was Garth Snow or Lou Lamoriello, anything about operations or systems inside the Islanders organization, they'd be like, let me ask Joanne first. She's basically the shadow GM, and she has been for a long time.
Right on.
She's tough as nails. For a woman to work in a professional sports environment like that for 4 decades.
Yeah.
Josh Bailey lived with her and her husband and their family as an 18-year-old.
How about that?
She is woven into the fabric of this organization. So I want to shout out Joanne. You're the coolest. She would hate me for mentioning her on this broadcast, but still, I got to point her out. So.
Right on. Great tribute there. Love that. And you might have heard of this guy, Matthew Schaefer.
Yeah, he's okay.
Yeah, he's my hero. He got the 2 big goals against Florida for going back that far.
Feels like a long time ago, but
yeah, that
yes.
helped me out a little bit in my selection here. And the great pass to Bo Horvat in stride for the overtime winner last night.
That was you see that situation and you're like, Bo Horvat steaming up the middle, and you're like, you see a lefty defenseman, you're like, is someone going to be able to put this right on tape? Oh, it's Schaefer. It'll be fine.
Yeah, no problem at
Hit
all.
him in stride.
But it almost looked like a set play.
Yeah.
And it was all because Horvat just so casually just dropped the puck behind the net and just fired out of a cannon, went straight down the middle of the ice. And Schaefer's like, I got you, bro. Sent it down, and Horvat is money in overtime once again. And, it's just great to see. And Schaefer has been obviously amazing. You can't say enough great things about him. So easy pick for me.
Absolutely.
Matthew Schaefer.
Got it.
All right. Well, that will do it for Hero of the Week. And now we're going to take it to the Snake Den.
Welcome to the Snake Den with Jake the Snake Redonis.
That's right. It's time for Snake Den with Jake the Snake Redonis. Looking very intelligent tonight with the glasses, and you brought the Sabres hat back. How you doing, pal?
I did, yeah.
Front runner now with
might
the
actually
Sabres.
be
Amazing.
might actually be bad luck, by the way, too. They were up 4-0 before and then gave up 6 straight goals.
Come on.
Yeah,
Wow.
and it was 6-5 the last time I looked, so I don't
that
know what's
right?
going on over there, but they're
boy.
playing Tampa. That's that might be a playoff series. That might be pretty crazy this year, too.
It might be. Just make sure you don't wear the hat on the 31st.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I'll be in my Islanders hat. Don't worry.
Okay, very good. So what do you have for us tonight, pal?
I thought we'd talk about some prospects who didn't move.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
all of them.
Yeah, pretty
Do you
much.
know their names?
Yes. So I could list all of them if you'd like, but I thought we'd focus on the 3 big names here that we talk about the most on the show, and that Matthew Darsh made it known that he wasn't going to part with these guys. So start off with Cole Yzerman. So we know he was injured a little bit earlier in the year, which people think might hamper his progress there. Obviously, want to see more of a complete game from him. I think that's the big story about him. He's a one-dimensional scorer, people say, but we know he's playing under Jade Pandolfo over there at BU. They're having a tough year. He's actually getting a little hot right now, 10 points in his last 10 games, 6 of those being goals. 16 goals on the year, 9 assists, 25 points in 30 games. It's about the same production he was doing his freshman year, which, it could be a little bit of a warning sign there. I think he's someone who would probably benefit from going back to school next year, in my opinion. I think you could look back to someone like Oliver Wahlstrom, where I feel like he should have probably stayed an extra year, and that probably hurt him turning pro a little too early. I don't know if turning pro for him next year would be a bad thing, but I just think that he could benefit playing with Jay over there at BU.
Well, as Arthur noted, there's not a lot of room for him next year, so maybe that's the way to go.
That too, and then you could always see him after the college season ends. And I mean, if BU has a year like they're having this year, they're not going to make the playoffs next year too. So that's what's going on with Yzerman. We got Aitchison, who we spent a little time on last week playing over in Barrie. No brawls caused this week, which is a good sign.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so kept his head clean there.
I like to see that part of his game.
You're a violent man.
No, we definitely do. Maybe just not the sucker punch one, but the fights are fun. He's an electric player who's just having an electric year. So obviously he was named the defenseman of the month twice back to back, which is huge.
Pretty good, yeah.
Just having a monster year on offense too. 27 goals, 37 assists, 64 points in 51 games. Not much to talk about there. We talked about him a lot last week. He's having a great year. I think that he's I don't know if he's able to come over to the American Hockey League next year, is he?
He is, because the new CBA,
yeah.
you have one exemption for a teenager from Canadian Junior that you can kind of designate as your guy. So I would imagine he might be that guy, because the next guy you're going to mention, who's coming from Sweden,
Yes.
is allowed to play in the AHL as a teenager.
So that's good. And I think that would be good for him to get up with the big boys and learn the pro game next year.
30 goals as a defenseman at the OHL level. I don't think you have a whole lot left to prove.
No, yeah, he's knocking on the door for sure. And then we got Eklund, who there's been reports about him probably turning pro next year, playing over in Sweden. Bo Horvath gave a hello to his brother yesterday on the bench.
Yes, he did.
He's got 7 points in his last 10 games. I know there was a lot of talk about him being a playmaker.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, so 5 of those are goals in those 7 points.
There we go.
He only had 1 goal going into those last 10 games. So he's having a good year, 20 points, 40 games. I think we won't really see too much production over there. It's really going to be what we see next year when he comes over, if he does. So that's what's going on with the prospects.
Okay.
And I thought we'd talk a little bit about what's going on in this Eastern Conference that just keeps staying
What do we
so
got?
close together. And the Islanders being in the mix there. So Canes, you guys mentioned in first place there. The Pens jumped the Isles today after a 3-goal comeback, which they're doing without Crosby, and Malkin getting a 5-game suspension for taking a baseball swing.
Yeah, that wasn't nice.
Jack Adams locked up for me. I don't have a vote, but like I think I've mentioned on the show, I covered when he was an assistant with Peter Laviolette. He's a guy who really impressed a lot of those veteran Rangers, and I think people were talking like he'd make a good NHL head coach. I don't know if it would happen this fast, but yeah, that they are a team that really impresses me team-wise, because you'd think, you've got Crosby, you've got Malkin, you've got Erik Karlsson, you've got Chris Letang, you've got your 4 core guys are old for this league.
Yeah.
But you're getting contributions from all over the place too. So real impressive from them, unfortunately, for the Islanders.
Yeah, and they took that swing with Skinner too, which is interesting. And I know Jari's not having the best time over in Edmonton, but that's the West Coast, so we won't talk about that.
Who cares?
But so they're actually 1 point up on the Islanders now. They do have they have 1 game in hand at this point. Then behind them, Blue Jackets are not going away. Since Rick Bowness has taken over, they've just been on fire. So they're 4 points back with 2 games in hand, which is definitely worrisome. So Islanders drop a couple games here. Blue Jackets come and take that spot pretty easily. So they got to watch out for them. Behind them, you got the and also they picked up Connor Garland, who was possibly linked to the Islanders too. So that's something to note there. They're a team that also could struggle with offense like the Islanders at points. So they made a trade there. Behind them, Flyers and Caps, 8 points back. I think the most shocking thing we saw last week regarding trades was John Carlson being shipped to Anaheim.
I'm impressed by Washington pulling the Band-Aid off like that. They were real decisive. So, I'm surprised. I'm surprised that John Carlson didn't have a full no move like every other veteran guy seems to have.
Right. That's a good point.
Parayko vetoing the trade to Buffalo. There was some scuttlebutt that maybe Jordan Kyrou said no with his no trade clause. I don't know if it was the Islanders, could have been somebody, but yeah, good on Caps GM Chris Patrick. You make that decision. I understand there's some unhappy faces in that room, but the Caps put themselves in that spot by having a bad season. So
there you have it. Yeah.
Interested to see what he does in Anaheim.
Smart move there by the Caps. I don't think that they're going to... Them and the Flyers, I don't really foresee getting fully back in the mix there, even with the wild card too. And then the Isles are caught up with the wild card. You guys were talking about this before, though. It's not that they have a gap, though, there. They're tied with the Red Wings in points, who hold the first spot. So you'd like to see them pull out some more wins and get a little ahead of those guys, because like you said, if they fall out right now, they're falling back and they're not even in a playoff spot. So you mentioned that the Red Wings are in first wild card spot there, the Bruins in the second. You got Columbus also knocking on the door there with the Senators as well, who turned their season around when Brady Tkachuk came back. So just the East has been crazy all year. I think it's going to be a very fun finish to this year. But like you said, this is the Islanders' spot to lose. So they got to do what they have to do here, especially with a weak week coming up.
Let Columbus have a wild card spot.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm fine with that.
They could switch over to the West. I think they'd be in first in the Pacific Division if they were out of the West.
Yeah, isn't that the case, right? Nobody in the Pacific would even make the playoffs in the East.
That's correct.
It's a disaster.
It's
over
unbelievable.
there.
And good on Anaheim for getting Carlson, because I mean that division's there for the taking, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, Edmonton could be out of a playoff spot the way that they've been playing. It's crazy.
And you saw the Ducks against the Islanders the other night. They're a fast, young team, so why not reward your players that way? So that's what's going on in the East. I had a trivia question.
Okay.
So if you were paying attention on Twitter, you might have seen it.
Okay.
But, so
I wasn't.
We
We've
saw
been doing
that.
a show, Jake.
Yeah, come on.
Cut us some slack.
Thinking here.
Well, I'm talking a couple days ago. But so Simon Holmstrom changing his number to 92. So the Islander who wore that before him was Vladimir Malakov. Do you know what number he wore before 92? I could give you some options here, or I could give you a hint.
Don't need him.
Don't need him.
Don't need him.
What do you got?
Hell yeah, I know.
Wow.
23.
That would be correct. And do you remember why he
That's-
changed numbers?
Because they were retiring Bobby Nystrom.
There you go. Well done.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, I was a wee lad then, but I remember.
There you go.
Glad he's the best.
Did you know that?
I do remember that he wore 23. When you ever see the David Volek goal highlight,
Okay.
that was Malakov's Islander heyday. I covered him when he was with the Rangers.
Okay.
In the early 2000s, different time.
Indeed.
But he is a quiet, hilarious guy, Vladdy. I love dealing with him, and he's still part of the Islanders organization as a European scout.
And what a pairing to get in a rookie season with him and Kasparaitis,
Oh
right?
my gosh, you have a guy who looks like he's a silent assassin, built like a truck in Vladdy, and then Darius, who he was our first guest this season on the show.
That's right.
He loves to talk, so I can only
was
imagine what
excellent.
those two are like.
Remember the tooth? He lost his tooth in a men's league game like that day or the day before?
That's right. Yeah. Amazing.
Outstanding. Well,
work,
Jake, great stuff for the Snake Den.
Thank you.
Love it. That will do it for the Snake Den. And now I will tell you about Isles Fix. That's right, Islanders Country. Get your daily fix of Isles news, highlights, and analysis by subscribing to Isles Fix, the Monday through Friday Islanders newsletter sent directly to your inbox. Sign up for free or become a paid subscriber for added benefits at ilesfix.substack.com. And now we go to questions. Brewing.
It's time for Questions Brewing. So go ahead, ask us a question.
Edzo, you're back, man.
Back
We
in
missed you
the
last
cell.
week.
I
What's
know.
up, pal?
I've been missing you guys.
How we doing?
I've been good. Jake, it's 8-7 Buffalo right now.
Come on.
Is that right?
With about 2 minutes and 5 seconds to go in the game.
It's an absolute barn burner out there.
Wow. 8-7. All right.
Yeah.
Well, how you doing, Ed?
I'm doing great.
Excellent.
I'm doing great.
You
I'm
got
happy
the
to be
glasses
back.
going today too?
Yeah, and so does Jake. Yeah, we're a little nerdy.
Very studious around here.
Yeah, look
Yeah.
at you guys. Bookworms.
Studious. Yes. So speaking of Jake, we're gonna start off with Jake's mom, who's in the chat.
Hey, all
Sharon's
right.
Sharon asks, "Do you think the fine against Horvat was fair?"
Yes. Noogie or not, you can't do that to somebody on the bench. Finding out that it was because the kid took his stick, and frankly, the connection, because he's Victor Eglin's big brother.
Yeah.
A little awkward for when Victor shows up here next season. Gonna have to apologize.
Yeah.
Maybe bring a little note or like a fruitcake or something. Just
Right.
a nice fruit basket, whatever. But yeah, you can't reach over into the bench and start messing around.
It's
with
not
those
allowed.
guys. No.
It is against the rules.
You know, it's a nominal fine, but I'm
Bo's
sure-
going to be fine.
Yeah, I
He's
think
not going to miss that.
I don't think he's going to.
Yeah, he's going to be fine.
Yeah. MJ Beckman, he says, when a team is on the road during the trade deadline, how many different extra uniforms, jerseys, pants, and helmets do they have to bring with them?
We need Alan back for that one.
Yeah, not only that, but how often do you have a umlaut handy for a new
That's right.
jersey,
Maybe you have to
right?
cut out some felt from one of the
Maybe.
one of the letters or numbers to make.
Hopefully that's in the next edition of On the Island, that
Yeah.
Islander show that's going on.
Jay Berger, their excellent equipment manager. I'm sure maybe we could get him on the show and ask all the equipment questions we can. I remember.
I like that.
Gosh, we've been on the road a few times back in my days traveling with the Islanders. There was the Thomas Vanek trade deadline. We were in Edmonton for that one. That was kind of a disappointing one for everybody. And then there was, I think it was 11-12, my first year back traveling. They were practicing in the Washington Capitals practice facility in Arlington, Virginia. And it's basically it's much like Northwell. It's kind of a public skating area.
Okay.
So everyone's watching TSN on the TVs there while some young girls were like figure skating nearby. So it's just all hockey players. Some guys who thought they might have gotten traded were all just standing there watching. I was on my phone texting, had some guys coming over to me asking like, have you heard anything? I'm like, we're watching it right now.
Right,
You can
right.
just and I think only Brian Ralston and Mike Motto got traded to Boston. Those were the only guys. But yes, you see the bags going out and you say, okay, I guess something's happening because we got to get these guys to the airport and get them somewhere else. So it's fascinating, even if you're just around the team. And I'm sure if you're working for them, yes, you're right. And it's you got to bring a lot of extra stuff, and you got to be ready to at a moment's notice. If you're the team services guy like Alan was in Bridgeport, you got to be able to get somebody there real quick.
And just to piggyback off of that, with when you have this unique situation of a veteran coming over who has a number, and we've seen this tons of times, but have you ever either been witness to that kind of discussion or even heard about what's the exchange between Holmstrom and Schenn, about the number and all that?
It feels like it's a bigger deal, like in baseball or basketball. I feel like guys have to be enticed a little bit more. Hockey, to me, a guy like Simon Holmstrom, he's a quiet guy. I don't think he's demanding anything or saying
right.
you owe me a Rolex. I think that's Brayden Schenn just kind of coming out. It's like, do you want to watch? And I'm sure he's going to say yeah, sure, whatever. So I don't know if that watch is actually going to change hands, but it sounds nice. And it's your new teammate. The guy was a captain on the other team. I think you just say you get seniority. You can have it if you want it.
And who knows, maybe 92 unlocks Simon Holmstrom.
And the other part is when Lou came in, half the team had their numbers changed because all the young guys.
Right.
Adam Pellick went from 50 to 3. I remember, Anthony Beauvillier.
72, right?
Right. He was 72 and then he became 18. And I kind of said to them, I was like, did you pick 18? And they were like, nope. Awesome. Someone just came in and said, here's your new number. And these are guys that are in the NHL. So, I think you want to hold on to your number. But if you can't, it's not that big a deal.
Fair enough. Yeah. Ed, what do you got?
Buffalo won in regulation.
Okay.
Charlie O'Hagan, he says, can Arthur give his take on the dreadful power play? Is it possible Yzerman can sign an ELC and be part of the solution? Wow. I feel we have 3/5 of a power play, Schaefer, Horvat, and Barzal.
Let me tell you, I don't know if the BU power play is any good this year. And that's not on Cole Yzerman. I just think that one guy doesn't really change it all. It is incredible that we've gone, with a couple of exceptions over the last 15 years, that this power play has been bad, and the years that it's been good, the team is bad. I think the best power play that they've had in the time that I've been watching them, 15 years, was 17-18, when the team couldn't stop a beach ball.
Right.
But they had, you look at the guys they had Anders Lee kind of in his prime 40-goal scorer. You had Tavares, you had Barzal, who was really kind of unleashed as a rookie to kind of do whatever he needed to do. You had Nick Leddy, a quarterback who was, not necessarily like a prolific guy, but a guy who could move his feet, move the puck. I know you have Matthew Schaefer now, but you look at the kind of the division of the power play units, and I understand that Ray Bennett and Patrick Waugh, at this point in the year when you're under 17%, you've been at the bottom pretty much the whole year. You're just trying whatever you can grab onto that'll work. Whether it's loading up one power play, splitting them up, putting guys in positions that maybe you don't normally put them in just to kind of shake things up. To me, the thing that's been missing the most is a trigger guy opposite Barzal. Matthew Schaefer loves to shoot the puck, but he is not a guy who's going to crank it. He doesn't need to be on that kind of the lefty Ovi spot on the other circle. Brock Nelson, when Brock Nelson was here, it wasn't a perfect power play either, but he was a guy who could shoot the puck.
Right.
And he was at a deceptive shot if he had room to take it. People have always said, well, what about Ryan Pulock with the big shot? Big slap shots don't really do anything to goalies anymore. You need screens, you need layered stuff, you need guys that can thread the puck through, you need guys that move their feet to move around. And I think, and I don't want to put this on Matthew Barzal, I think there's been a lot of force feeding of Bo Horvat in the bumper. That's an easy thing for a penalty kill to take away. And if that's your most effective thing, that's going to be tough. Kyle Palmieri's absence, I think, plays a big part. But he's a guy who causes a lot of chaos, not just with his body down low, but he's willing to jam pucks and kind of look for odd angles and rebounds and things like that. So it's all these little factors. And I think the main thing to me, without Palmieri and without Nelson, is Matthew Barzal needs to be more predictable. And I think that's it's not a knock on him. It's hard to find guys that mesh with him well over the years because he's such a creative guy and he's moving around and he's kind of dusting it off and he's trying to find different things. When he's moving, I don't know that this is stuff that you work on.
More predictable for his teammates.
I think you just need to stick to some scripts, figure some things out. When you talk about being simpler, that's what I mean. That I think Matthew Barzal, if he stuck to a power play script, if Ray Bennett gave them 4 or 5 different plays, if he's got the puck, somebody goes here, he dishes it off, he moves around without it, whatever it is. I'm not a coach, so I can't really say.
Sure.
But I think dependability is a really important thing for a power play. Like when you look at, obviously Alex Ovechkin is the most dependable power play player that's ever played.
Right.
He does what he does, and the other guys react to it. You need a guy that everyone reacts to. And if Barzal's the one that's going to have the puck, everybody needs to know where he's going to be and where he's going to go with it. And I don't know that they have that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's indecision, but like even watching last night, and the third power play, they didn't get anything going. But the second one, I believe, is when they had a ton of zone time. But it was just a back and forth between Schaefer and Barzal. Yeah. I mean, they were just sending the puck back and forth between each other. Everybody else is relatively stationary. And, you know, is it on the guys who aren't moving for them? Is it on Barzal and Schaefer for not deciding to throw a puck on net or try to force a puck down low? Because they ate up so much time just going back and forth. Yeah. And the Sharks were just like, have at it, guys. Enjoy.
I do wonder, you know, if you made a trade for a guy like Kyrou. Kyrou's a righty. He needs if he needs to be in a spot, he needs to be in that off wing Ovechkin spot. That's Barzal's spot. So you know, maybe that's a hesitation about making that trade, is that you're putting Barzal on a less advantageous power play spot. I understand the power play's not been good,
right?
But I feel like the thing that's going to change it the most, whether it's next year or a couple of years, Matthew Schaefer is going to be the guy that everything runs through. I don't think that they're there right now, but I think the evolution is just naturally going to happen. He is their Cale Makar. He is their focal point. He is their Adam Fox. So the power play, whether it's because he's going to make creative plays or shoot shots or whatever, walk the line, it's all going to run through him. So I think once they get that settled, and once a guy like Barzal can accept that that's going to be the situation, I think things will improve.
Well, Thomas Boyle added that of the 35 power play goals, Schaefer has 7 and Barzal has 2.
I don't think that's Barzal's role. I mean, Bo Horvat is the scorer, and Schaefer is really, to me, a surprising goal scorer because he doesn't, like I said, he doesn't have this laser shot.
He knows how to thread that puck.
He does, and that is such an incredible skill to have in modern NHL. It's more important than being able to hit it 100 miles an hour.
Gotcha. That was supposed to be just Arthur's take, Sean. Just remember.
Yeah, shut up next time, buddy. Okay.
Sorry.
Chris from Long Island.
All right. The NL King has checked in.
So did you guys hear the Elliot Friedman report about how Darsh and Wah met with Schenn in his hotel to speak to him about why he should come to the island? Chris from Hicksville.
We sure did, Chris. Yeah, I mean, that's you got to do what you got to do. I think Patrick Waugh meeting with anybody in the NHL might tip things into your favor. But
do you think Schenn doesn't come to the island if they weren't able to knock on the door and have a chat with him?
I would imagine he still is going to waive his no trade clause there. But every little bit helps, and the fact that they were staying in the same hotel, a fascinating little tidbit to the history books. You know, we've heard about trades where teams are about to play each other and they just threw their equipment in a shopping cart and changed locker rooms. But this is a new one and kind of funny.
Darch was like, "Hey, Ralph's just opened for the season. well, let's go take a trip."
We were joking about it. This is our mutual friend Mike Leboff sent me this one that said like maybe they were knocking on Robert Thomas's door first.
Right.
Anybody want to come? Oh, Brayden Schenn. Yeah, let's sit down and have a chat. But yeah, good that they were able to do that. And if that's the thing that made the difference, great that they were able to.
And I guess a small, tiny victory for this Islander fan base and franchise that a guy actually did waive his no trade clause to come to the island.
And I'm curious to see if they're asking again, whether it's Kyrou or somebody in the summer that has trade protection, or when we get to free agency, if they're able to sign somebody, if they say what Brayden Schenn said, which is, who wouldn't want to play with Matthew Schaefer? Then maybe we'll know what we've turned a corner.
The tide's turning.
Maybe.
Magician Matt, he says, where does Cal Ritchie fit in now when Palmieri is back in next year?
I mean, there better be a spot for him somewhere.
Right.
I don't know if he's your, third line wing or if he's a second line wing. There's a lot of bodies. A lot of people to think about.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how it's all going to shake out. And if there's an Anders Lee extension, and you got 15 NHL contracts for forwards?
You might have to put some forwards on D.
I know. And I think we could probably say goodbye to Max Shabanov, unfortunately, and Anthony Duclair, who knows where he'll end up. But that still leaves a very crowded group. And
for sure.
I love Cal Ritchie's game. I don't think he's a number 2 center. I don't know if he will be in the future. I don't think he is right now. But I think he's going to play some wing, and we'll see who he can line up with. He's playing with Schenn now. Maybe he'll get some time with Pageau if they juggle some things around. Maybe he'll get some time on the top line with Barzal and Horvat, and we'll see if he can handle himself there. It's a different game when you're a winger. you don't have quite as much to responsibility, things to think about. So I wonder if that's going to help him at the offensive end.
Fair enough.
We had a couple questions about the Darch situation with this trade. We're going to do Freedom, Fun, and Adventure. He said, why did Darch lie? Darch stated the mission was to get younger and fix the salary situation. He stated if he traded the Colorado pick, it would be for a player under 27.
As fair as I suppose that may be, it doesn't mean you can't ever trade for a guy over the age of 27, right?
Fair.
You can still add some veterans.
What about several years over the age?
Yeah,
7 years.
Yeah, I don't.
Like if he had traded for Jake versus trading for you,
big difference.
That's a big
several
difference.
years. That is
several
several years. That's true. Look, I am sure, and you kind of mentioned this already, right? That I'm sure that, and this is no disrespect to Brayden Schenn at all, but there probably were some guys higher on the list than Brayden Schenn.
I don't imagine that Matthew Darch had a very quiet few weeks leading up to the deadline before he just decided to trade for Brayden Schenn. Right.
And as you also mentioned, it seemed like prices were high.
Yep.
That's a big reason why guys didn't even get dealt, whether it's Kyrou, Trocheck, whoever it may be, right? And, on the flip side of that, I guess it's good that Darch had a, bridge too far moment where maybe if somebody was like, yeah, we'll give you Kyrou, but you got to give us Aitchison, you got to give us Eklund or whomever it is. And he's like, no, I'm not doing that.
Right.
So, you can make an argument, is it a trade for the sake of making a trade? Or, is this a guy they had their eyes on the entire time to a different degree? I couldn't tell you that. But, maybe it's not exactly in lockstep with what Darch said coming in, taking over here. But I still think he gets some wiggle room to still try to improve this team, still try to reward the team for what they did this season. And we're going to find out, and I said this before, I'm curious where it's going. I'm sure they have some sort of longer-term plan with a lot of these guys coming off in 2 years, right? Palmieri's out after next year. You have a couple more contracts expiring the year after that, right? Cizikas, Schenn himself, and
Palat's up next year.
Palat, yeah. So there are some of these guys, these aging guys, are going to be coming off the books. There's going to be a lot of cap room, not only with that. They have a lot of good players, core players that are locked into good deals relative to what the cap's going to be also. So he's still going to be able to make this team younger, despite making it a little older in the very immediate.
Yeah, I think you said it well. Like in the short term, this is a better team with Brayden Schenn on it. In the longer term, let's think about the short term.
Well said.
Fair enough.
One more.
Thomas Boyle.
Hey, TB.
If you have one more, I will do two. Real quick, Bobbers asked if Johnny Laz got his Schaefer jersey yet. Arthur?
No, but I'm sure somebody will get one for him.
Gotcha. So Thomas Boyle, he asked, I'm hearing Austin Matthews wants out of Toronto. Do you think the Islanders will have the assets and cap space to go after him this summer?
TB, aiming for the stars.
He didn't get his Tage Thompson.
That's right.
Now he wants his Austin Matthews. Maybe. I mean, listen.
Stranger things have happened.
I'll tell you what. Austin Matthews looked a lot happier in Milan than he does in Toronto.
Oh my God, what a mess up there. We were kind of talking before the show about, the Rangers didn't make all the moves that they were supposed to make after the letter. The Devils, who knows where they are. Nashville, we love Barry Trotz, but what the hell's going on there? I think out of everybody, Toronto might be the most miserable, and that is a damn shame.
Damn shame.
Damn
you hate
shame.
to hear it.
A shame.
So yeah, I mean, people I talk to, some of whom were based in Toronto, are saying like, yeah, I wouldn't count on Austin Matthews being here for the long haul. Matthew Nyes' name was out there at the trade deadline, and I think on my daily face-off show, I said, if you're Matthew Darch, I'm making a call and saying, what does it take to get Matthew Nyes here? Because that guy would make a huge difference. He's basically Anders Lee, but a couple notches above. So, and he's super young.
Right.
So maybe that's a conversation for the summer. But I imagine that if Austin Matthews is out there, I don't know that the island will be his first destination, but as we were saying, maybe Matthew Schaefer is the guy that you want to come play with if you have the availability. He's not going to Colorado to play with Cale Makar. He's not going to the Rangers to play with Adam Fox. Maybe he'll go to L.A., maybe because he's from out west. But if you've got the cap room and you've got the next superstar defenseman in the NHL, you can say, Austin, come play with us.
Arthur, what absolute poetry it would be if after John Tavares
oh my gosh,
going to Toronto to miserably fail with that squad up north, only for it to come full circle for Austin Matthews to not only leave the Leafs after that failure, but to come to the island.
Would you stop?
Sign me up?
Could you stop? Would you
I think this
stop
is Boyle's
laughing
vision.
ever if
No,
that happened?
absolutely not.
Oh my gosh.
Give it to me.
Twitter, like I know Twitter isn't the place it used to be, but man, that place would explode if that happened.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, think of all the Photoshop pictures with bed sheets on Matthews as a kid.
Stop. Let's not. You know,
This is my dream, Arthur.
I
Don't
can
take this
tell.
away from me.
Well, we can keep talking about it because it's going to be a little while.
All right. Well, great stuff.
Before we wrap this
excuse
entirely
me.
up, I just want to ask Mr. Arthur if he has an anthem this week.
Of course, I have an anthem.
Well
this
done,
week.
Ed.
Do you?
I needed something to kind of sum up everybody's mixed feelings, shall we say, about the deadline and the ads. So I went with a great 3-piece that's based out of Nashville called Winona Fighter.
Nice.
That's a great band name.
It's a great band name, and they're a great band. They have a great cover of Beastie Boys' Sabotage, if you want to check that out.
Hey now.
The song I picked was Swear to God I'm Fine, which I think a lot of Islander fans are telling themselves right now after not knowing how to feel about some of these moves and not knowing how to feel about how they've played lately. So keep saying positive stuff. It's lead singer Coco. She screams it a little bit. So maybe it's good therapy for everyone to get it out. But
the playlist is growing.
It is.
I love it. Great stuff, Ed. Good job on you to get that in. Now that will do it.
All right.
For Questions Brewing, that means that'll do it for the show. A huge thanks to Alan Fuehring for a great spot earlier in the show. Outstanding stuff. And a big thanks to you guys tuning in with us live. Really appreciate it. Arthur Staple, where can we find you everywhere and anywhere?
Stape NHL on Twitter, Art Stape on Blue Sky, and Tri-State Hockey Report, Daily Faceoff.
You can follow myself on Twitter or Blue Sky at Shawnee Hockey. You can follow the show on all social media platforms at Hockey Night NY. You can check out the website at hockeynightny.com. Jake Radonis, where can we find you?
Find me at Jake Radonis on Twitter, RADONIS.
Excellent. Also want to send a big thanks to our sponsor, Razor Kniff and Lonstein, attorneys at law. Nobody likes going to court, but if you have to, call 212-LAW-1500 for a free consultation. Also, folks, please rate, review, and subscribe if you haven't already. That's going to do it. So for Arthur Staple, for Jake Radonis, for Edzo, and for Happy Jay, hanging out next to Edzo. I think he just woke up. Fantastic. I've been Sean Cuthbert. We've been Hockey Night in New York. We will see you next week.